Joining us tonight is Natalie Melnyczuk, who is actually someone who works as a consultant for Wayne State University, also former director of NATO's mission in Ukraine. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you very much.
So do you feel like there's any validity to what Putin is saying right now?
Well, today we saw an emboldened Putin deliver what is his annual address to the people, an annual address which last year he actually did not hold because he was so embarrassed by the way his war on Ukraine was going. So this is the first time we've seen him speak to the nation since launching the all-out invasion in March of 2022. He made quite a few uninformed or disinformed statements meant to mislead primarily his domestic audience, but also the international audience, if he could get play there. So when he talked about the hostages, for example, he's saying that we're not giving him exactly what he wants in order to give us back Mr. Whelan and journalist Gershkowitz from the Wall Street Journal. But the fact of the matter is he's using them as a bargaining chip in just getting a bigger payback for having snatched these two innocent Americans into custody.
What does Putin want? I mean, we're approaching 2 years since the invasion of Ukraine, much longer of a war than anyone initially predicted. There have been some staggering losses for Russia, right?
There are indeed. There are huge losses. He's lost over 319,000 soldiers in Ukraine in under 2 years. He doesn't seem to mind that. He's recruiting from penal colonies, prisons. Murderers, rapists are being sent to the front line by the tens of thousands. They're usually sent unarmed, unprepared, and they're used as cannon fodder before the troops from behind come in. And by then they know where the Ukrainian positions are. Some artillery has been spent, which is good for Russia, but Russia's been suffering catastrophic losses there, and as a matter of fact, Ukraine has reclaimed 50% of the territory which Russia occupied since the March 2022 invasion. However, what does Russia want? What does Putin want? Putin wants two things. One, he would love to take all of Ukraine, have all its resources, human capital, agricultural wealth, industrial base, human capital, and the territory itself. But the bigger picture is really his desire to destabilize the West, all democratic countries, undermine Western security and the rule of law order, which has kept stability on the planet for 80 years. It is that order that keeps authoritarians and their unbridled ambitions in check. Without the rule of law and the international democratic community watching over these authoritarian would-be imperialists, we will see violence exploding throughout the world, and we will all be involved in what would probably be a very destabilizing time. We might change from a unipolar to a bi or multipolar world, and that never comes without a lot of violence, war, and death.
Yeah, there have been a lot of people rooting for Paul to come back home, so even hearing this is inspiring for them or makes them a little bit hopeful. Do you feel like there's any sincerity to it at all?
No, that's probably quite misleading unless there's some bargain to be made with the White House or with those who are charged with negotiating for hostages. But in general, Putin wants his audience, his domestic audience, to believe he is a sincere and kind and thoughtful actor on their behalf, and that there was reason to detain these gentlemen, which there was not in either case, and they are simply kept as human bargaining chips so that Russia can exert leverage to get what it wants from the U.S.
I imagine that part is very discouraging for the families of Gershkowitz and Whelan. Does Russia have a number of other high-profile prisoners that they can fall back on, or are they going to hold on to them?
Well, they did release some of our high-profile prisoners. Exactly. So there is hope, and things change not only by the day, but by the hour. So today, after Putin made his speech, we had several interesting events. One, the EU and the European Council has formally invited Ukraine to begin accession talks to be a full member of the EU. Ukraine has been working on this for 30 years. Since its independence, it's been trying to get into the EU, get into NATO. Russia has done everything it can along the way to get in between those aspirations for both the EU and NATO. So huge win for Ukraine today. In Washington, D.C., however, Putin is making some headway by having the Congress split on whether or not to go ahead with the next tranche of funding for Ukraine, $61 billion. That $61 billion is going to make or break Ukraine's chances next year to be able to push Russia out of its country. So it's a vital concern. Today, the Senate has agreed to return next Monday. They are not starting their recess, although the House began their recess. And one of the primary reasons they're coming back instead of going on vacation is to discuss the aid for Ukraine.
All right, well, we will be following all of this very closely. This is Natalie Melnyczuk. Thank you so much for your insight.
Thank
Natalie.
you.
Appreciate it.